57-58 season, the auditions of the air came to an end. The next year, it was decided to bring all of the regional winners to New York City to be heard in a concert on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera House with the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra. Some of the audition winners who have been our guests here on Breakfast with the Arts are mezzo-soprano Frederica Funchtada from 1969, baritone Thomas Hampson from 1981, sopranos Hae Kyung Hong and Sylvia McNair in 1982, soprano Deborah Voigt in 1985, sopranos Renee Fleming, Heidi Grant Murphy, mezzo-soprano Susan Graham, and tenor Ben Heppner in the bumper year of 1988, soprano Elizabeth Futrall and countertenor Brian Asawa in 1991, tenor John Osborn in 1994, soprano Sandra Radvanovsky in 1995, and last year's winner, soprano Rochelle Durkin.
Finding out that I was one of the winners was out of this world.
From 1979 until 1998, 10 equal winners were chosen from among the regional winners to perform at a winners' concert on the Metropolitan Opera stage with the Metropolitan Orchestra. Since 1998, however, the format has been altered to include another round of competition. But before the two final rounds begin, the National Council offers the regional winners some exceptional Met perks, such as having the opportunity to attend Metropolitan Opera performances and having coachings with the Met staff during their week of preparation for the finals concert.
It's our intent to give them something, not just make them come in and sing yet another audition, but to give them something while they're here.
She does that. That is absolutely beautiful. That's it, my dear.
There's also plenty of opportunity for socializing with the other contestants and the Met staff. This year, 9 young singers were chosen from a pool of 20 regional winners. The semi-finalists were selected on April 14th.
My colleagues and myself, thank you for a wonderful, wonderful afternoon of singing. We enjoyed very much hearing you all. And so now, to cut to the quick, let me just give you the names of the finalists for the 2002 Metropolitan Opera National Council winners. Levy Hernandez.
With this additional round, the winners' concert was changed to the Grand Finals concert, where all 9 semifinalists performed to a full house, accompanied by the Metropolitan Orchestra, not to mention a panel of judges comprised of the Met staff.
One is looking for a vocal talent. It can also be a talent with an interesting vocal talent. It may not be the most beautiful voice. Ostensibly, it might not be somebody you think, oh, I've never heard a voice so beautiful, this is a wonderful voice, this is exceptional. It can be somebody who has character in a voice, somebody who has something to say. It's a very difficult thing to define. You know, you kind of get a feeling.
The Grand Finals concert for the 2002 auditions took place this past Sunday. The event was hosted by the great soprano Martina Arroyo.
And now, may I present the winners of the 2002 Metropolitan Opera National Council auditions. Carolyn Betty. Philippe Castagnoli. James Valenti. And Twyla Robinson.
Today, the top winners each receive $15,000 in prize money, and this year's 5 semifinalists will each receive $5,000. The experience for all the winners who gathered in New York City this April is worth a great deal more than the cash prizes.
The biggest thing I've learned, I think, is that I had to relax in the face of doing the most important thing in my life so far.
2 words, super cool.
It was just an incredible experience, plus the coachings, and just everyone's been very, very supportive and friendly and just great for this whole week, so I really enjoyed myself.
It's great to have people from Kentucky and, you know, from Tennessee and British Columbia and all these places. You make new friends, you know, and especially the music business. So when you go to different towns, it's always good to call up someone and, you know, go for a dinner and talk about the time you're in the 2002 Met final.
Once the competition is over, that does not mean that these young singers are forgotten. Each of the regional winners are eligible to return during the next 5 years to audition for the Met's artistic staff for additional grant money of up to $5,000. The National Council takes every effort to track the singers' progress and offers continued assistance in their career development.
I keep good track of everybody I hear. I have a little database which frightens them to death when I tell them they're in the computer. I try to keep track of where they are in school, what summer programs they've done. It's a way for me to literally keep an eye on their development. We do keep in touch with them and see what they're doing. Some of them we want very much to hear again next year. There are people who don't stay for the finals that are this close, you know, to making that happen, and we hope we'll hear again next year.
Over 100 singers on the Metropolitan roster during any given season have auditioned for the National Council. While there are many routes to the stage of the Met, for singers in North America, the National Council auditions create an introduction to the company that may have otherwise eluded them. Stay with us. When we come back, we will introduce you to this year's 4 National Council audition winners chosen on April 21st. Breakfast with the Arts will continue in a moment. The Metropolitan Opera National Council audition winners on Breakfast with the Arts now continues. Welcome back to this special Breakfast with the Arts featuring the 4 winners of the 2002 Metropolitan Opera National Council auditions. Back with us again this year to accompany these young singers is George Darden, Metropolitan Opera pianist and coach. Our first performance will be from soprano Twyla Robinson, who represents the Pacific region. She made her San Francisco Opera debut last season in The Magic Flute. This morning she will sing from the Consul by MENOTTI.
To this we've come, that man withhold the world from men, no ship, no shore, for him who drowns at sea, no home, no grave, for him who dies on land. To this we've come, that man be born a stranger upon God's earth, that he be chosen without a chance for choice, that he be hunted without the hope of refuge. To this we've come, to this we've come, and you too shall weep. If to men, not to God, we now must pray, tell me, Secretary, tell me, who are these men? If to them, not to God, we now must pray, tell me, Secretary, tell me, who are these dark archangels? Will they be conquered? Will they be doomed? Is there anyone behind those doors, to whom the heart can still be explained? Is there anyone who still may know? Tell me, Secretary, tell me, have you ever seen the Consul? Does he speak? Does he breathe? Have you ever spoken to him? Papers, 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 but don't you understand? What can I my child is dead. John's mother is dying. My own life is in danger. I ask you for help, and all you give me is papers. What is your name, Madame Sorel? Age 33. Color of eyes, color of hair, single or married, religion and race. Place of birth, father's name, mother's name. Papers, 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 papers. Look at my eyes, they are afraid to sleep. Look at my hands, at these old woman's hands. Why don't you say something? Aren't you secretaries human beings like us? What is your name, Madame Sorel? Age 33. What will your papers do? They cannot stop the clock. They are too thin an armor against a bullet. What is your name, Madame Sorel? Age 33. What does that matter? All that matters is that the time is late, that I'm afraid and I need your help. What is your name? What is your name? What is your name? This is my answer. My name is woman. Age still young. Color of hair gray. Color of eyes the color of tears. Occupation waiting, 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 waiting. Oh, come, I know, when your paper chains. The consul secretary warned him that day neither ink nor seal shall cage our souls. That day will come. That day will come.
Twyla, thanks so much for singing for us. George, wonderful. Thank you. Have a seat. I can't do it justice and applaud right now like it was yesterday at the competition when you sang this aria. I should be clear that all the arias that are going to be sung today will be from the competition. The place exploded. The house exploded, and George was telling me before we went on that he'd never seen that kind of reaction before in a competition. What did it feel like to you when you finished that aria and the place went crazy?
I couldn't believe it. I finished singing. It's such an emotional piece, and I stop, and there's this millisecond of silence, and then there's this wave of sound that just hits you like a Mack truck, and I couldn't believe it. MENOTTI is not done on the Met stage very often, and I didn't know how it would be received, and they just loved it. And I had so many supporters out there. I mean, I just could feel the support coming at me, and I had to run off stage because I thought I would start to cry, and I didn't have on waterproof makeup, so
Okay, yeah, I see that. What was the thinking? You know, there weren't a lot of English arias sung in English at the competition. This was one of the very few, contemporary pieces as well. What was the thinking in picking this piece?
Well, it's a piece that I've sung a lot, and it's a piece that's very close to my heart. And whenever something speaks to you so strongly, it reads so well that you can't not do it, even though it might not be traditional repertoire or anything like that. You know you have to sing it because you have something to say. And I was hoping they would pick it, and they did. And to put it last on the program was just a huge favor to me, and I've had a great time doing it.
There was also a sense that this was one of the arias that was acted more than other arias in the competition. We got a sense from all the singers that they were great singers, but this really showcased your acting more than almost any of the other arias there. Was there a sense that you wanted to show that? Because that's just as big a part of being an opera singer as anything.
It was nice to have something you can sink your teeth into. A lot of arias are a vocal showcase, and while a beautiful voice is great, and I tried to show that in the first aria I sang, Arabella, this is not necessarily a pretty voice piece. It has something to say. It's text-driven, and acting is the mainstay of it. And I don't know if they chose to showcase me for that, but because of the holistic approach to the piece in terms of the acting with the music and everything else, it worked out very well.
Let's get a little bit of your story. Where were you born?
Louisiana, Baton Rouge.
And you're still living in Louisiana right now.
I just spent 2 years in San Francisco and moved back home because my house was standing empty, so I'm there cleaning it up and chopping down trees and burning brush and doing all of that. So it's nice to be there. I'll be there for a little while.
And when did opera first come into your life? When did you decide that this was something you could do?
I didn't start training vocally until I was 18. I knew I wanted to sing, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what type of singing. So I started my first opera was probably at 18, and I had never seen it before. I knew it existed. I had tried to like it as a kid, and I thought, oh, recordings. All I heard was recordings.
Right.
And I knew, oh, that's great. They sing well. But I wasn't hooked on it. But when I actually saw it live on the stage,
what was the first one you saw?
Romeo and Juliet. And it was the Western Opera Theater. They were a touring group that went out of San Francisco, and my first professional gig was Western Opera Theater. So it was a nice circle.
And your teachers now, tell us who you've been working with lately.
For the past 5-6 years, it's been Costanza Cucaro at Indiana University.
You know, that's a name that I do remember because last year, almost exactly a year ago, when we had the 2001 Met Opera winners from the previous year, I think she trained 2 of the winners from last year.
Yes.
What is she doing right that she's got 3 of the last batch in the last 2 years?
Well, she has a completely solid technique, and it's a technique that will hold up for you. If you do have to act something and you end up acting with the voice, she has a solid enough technique that you can get through it and not be tired. And the pedagogy that she teaches is completely sound. And it'll be one that'll carry me through till I'm 65 or 70. And people hear that whenever they know when they hear a technically well-built voice, and she helps us to create that.
At the still very tender young age of 31, if you don't mind me saying, you're one of the older ones in this group, in this competition. Had you held off in applying for this kind of a competition in the past till now?
Yes, I had, because the music that speaks to me, like Arabella and the Consul and some of the larger Mozart roles, they weren't right for me at 26. If you're not singing music that speaks to you, you're not going to win a competition, because they can tell. And I wanted to wait till I was old enough to do the repertoire I wanted to do.
You're working privately with the teacher you mentioned, and in school? Are you still in school?
No, actually, I spent 4 years in Indiana University, and I was going to try to go back in the fall to finish, but some work has come around, and I have to choose between school and sing. That's a real hard choice, so it looks like it might be going towards singing.
And tell us about the Magic Flute in San Francisco.
It was great.
That experience.
It was my debut there, and Donald Runnels conducted, and Elizabeth Bishop and Kathy Cook were 2 former Met winners who were my other 2 ladies, and big voices and absolutely fearless on stage. So we could do whatever we wanted to, and I knew they were going to be right there to support me, And we all sing as a trio all the time, and with those big voices, you could really let it soar. So there was no holds barred. We were three very outrageous ladies, and we had a great time.
We like Donald. He's been on this show before.
Yes.
Tell us about the roles. Where do you see yourself going from this point forward?
If I had my choice, I would sing the big Mozart roles and some of the Strauss roles. And if anybody would put up any early Verdi, I would love to do that.
Twyla Robinson, congratulations on being a winner this year, and thanks for singing for us today.
Thanks for having me.
Twyla Robinson will be seen in the role of Donna Anna at the Pine Mountain Music Festival in Michigan this summer, and will also be a recitalist on the Marilyn Horne Foundation's 2003 On Wings of Song recital series. The Metropolitan Opera National Council audition winners on Breakfast with the Arts will continue. Breakfast with the Arts now continues. Our next winner of the 2002 Metropolitan Opera National Council auditions is tenor James Valenti, who represents the Upper Midwest region. He's a native of New Jersey and has been a resident artist with the Minnesota Opera for 2 seasons, where he appeared in Pagliacci, La Bohème, and Don Carlo. Today he will sing from I Lombardi by Verdi.
La mia letizia infondere, vorrei nel suo bel cuore, vorrei destar co palpiti del mio beato amore. Al cielo ed ergermi, dove mortal, mortal non va. Dove mortale, dove è mortal, mortal non va. Dove mortal, mortal non va. Dove mortal, mortal, mortal non va. Non va, non va.
James, terrific. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations. Have a seat. You finished this aria yesterday in the competitions, and there was a big smile on your face. You got a nice audience reaction. So
Yes.
what were you thinking at that moment?
Well, honestly, I was just so excited to be on the stage and to know the history of the stage and the great singers that have been there, and to have a full house like that, hearing them applaud, and just I was just soaking it all in. I couldn't stop smiling. I was so excited, and I just wanted to enjoy every second of it, and I felt like I did. I just smiled and just said, "This is awesome."
Even before you started, if you look over your left shoulder, that must have been what you were looking at. That picture there.
Yes, that's pretty much
is
it.
what you were. When you first came out and looked at that house, which you've probably known ever since you've known anything about opera, what were your feelings about being out there?
Well, luckily, I think it helped because there were lights shining in our face, so we couldn't quite see everybody. We could hear them, and you could see the first couple rows, but the lights were kind of shining, so you couldn't see every little thing, which helped. But I just was thinking, my God, I can't believe where I am, and I just want to sing well and just enjoy being here. You know, just enjoy it.
Your first aria was the Verdi we just heard.
Yes.
The second aria that you sang, we had heard previously in the competition. It was
Yes.
the only aria out of the entire competition that was repeated twice. Were you worried about that?
Well, A little bit. Philippe, one of the other winners, who
he's here today, and of course we'll hear him sing that a little bit later on this program.
He's a fantastic singer. He and I, we have very different voices, and we have different approaches to the aria. So I didn't listen to him do it. I went to my dressing room and turned off the monitor.
Probably a good idea.
Didn't want to hear him, but he's a great guy, and we talked a little about that. We were both a little uncomfortable just because you can't help but compare. But we both had our different approach and just wanted to show our approach to the aria, and it made me a little nervous, but I just wanted to go do it my way. So.
And picking the two arias, you were a little more daring than most in that you included a few high notes. People like the high notes. People like the high notes from the tenors.
Yes.
Was that part of your thinking that I'm gonna put them in both my arias?
Well, it was, and of course that's what they want to hear, and I just decided this first aria, the Lombardi, is pretty short, and I decided it ends pretty big, and I just decided I'll do this first, and it's short and sweet. It'll make them want a little more. And then when I came back on for the Faust later on, I felt like I felt like the audience was waiting for me to come back on, and it was a nice feeling. I felt accepted. The Met audience accepted me. I felt like so.
Well,
yeah,
they certainly did.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I felt like it. It was great.
I have to ask: are there any other opera singers that you know of that are 6'5"?
I know a few other. I know that I think Bryn Terfel is about 6'4", 6'5", and Cheryl Milnes was very tall, and my personal favorite tenor was Franco Corelli, and he was about 6'3", 6'4", and he's kind of I just look up to him very much, and he happened to be very tall as well, and I feel like it's definitely an advantage that I'm tall, and I try and stand up straight and use my height. When I first started to sing, I would in college, I'd be, I didn't want to stick out of the crowd. I would right. But now that I'm, doing more professional things and I feel more secure, I really try and use my height to my advantage. So. Will it dictate roles? Do you think both your height and the tenor, will that come together and say these are the roles you should be doing? I think it will. I hope it will. I mean, people have said that being that I am tall, there are a lot of tall sopranos out there who want a tall tenor, and so I think it will. I think that I'll be doing some of the romantic leading role type of things. That's kind of what people have said with my look and my voice. That's where I'm headed. So I'm very excited about that. Give us your background. You're a native of New Jersey? Yes, I'm from New Jersey. So you were in the New York area your whole life, I suppose. Did you come into the city and come to the Met? I started coming to the Met in college, yes, and I didn't, not as much as a kid. As a kid, I went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art with my mother and father, and we'd go into New York, maybe once every couple months, just to, And growing up, New York, I didn't realize what a big deal it was. I remember one time watching a game show and somebody won a trip to New York, and I thought, well, it's not a big deal.
Across the Hudson.
She's like, honey, that's for some people that's a big deal. I said, oh, I didn't realize, But just to be here and to have my family be able to come to this competition, to be so close to home. I had half of New Jersey there yesterday.
I sat behind them.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I had a long talk with your dad.
And it was so thrilling for them to be there and to share the day with me. It was really a great feeling. So. And when did you come to opera, or it come to you? When did you first decide this? I sang in high school. I was in the show choir and stuff.
Musicals too?
Sang musicals. I sang Billy Joel tunes. I did a role in high school, Lieutenant Cable in South Pacific, so the stage I felt was calling me. And then when I went to college, I went to West Virginia University, and I fell in with a great teacher there, Professor Augusto Payalunga, Gus, who is like my second father, and he helped introduce me to opera and just discovered, he said, you got a voice there. And I saw my first opera, Aida, in Pittsburgh Opera, and he just opened up the world of opera to me. And I've had great teachers through high school and college, and now my current voice teacher, Bill Schumann. I've had great guidance, and I feel very lucky, and I feel very blessed to be able to do what I do.
It's a big leap, though, between somebody saying, hey, you could do this, and you really liking it. I mean, you're in your 20s, you could be out, with a heavy metal band. When did your heart follow the voice? In late college, when I really started to find my voice, I just decided that, I can do this, and I wanted it. I just thought it was an amazing thing what these people, when I went to hear an opera, what they can do. 2 pieces of tissue as big as your thumb. What they kind of sound, and it's amazing. It was amazing to me, and I just decided, I wanted to learn to do that, and I wanted to do that. It was some part of me. It was calling me. It just, my parents say that they look back when I was a kid, I'd always sing, commercials and stuff, and so it was always, I guess it was always there. And as I got older, it just. The fate just took over, and I feel so lucky to be doing what I'm doing.
Really do.
These Met auditions, what does it mean to you? You had a big competition to get to where you could win and be on the stage. You're here on national television. What does it feel? Does it feel like a real jump start to your career?
Absolutely. It's I still can't quite believe it, and it's an amazing feeling, and the amount of competition that there is nowadays, and to be able to say that I'm one of the winners in this competition is just. And the amount of exposure that I've received in the past few weeks working at the Met and working with the staff there, it's just been unreal. It's every young singer's dream, really. And I still can't quite believe it. And I'm here on TV and I can't quite believe it either. But
well, believe it. Best of luck to you. Come back and visit us.
Thanks very
James
much.
Valenti. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
James Valenti will attend Philadelphia's Academy of Vocal Arts in the fall. This summer he performs the role of Medoro in Haydn's Orlando Palladino at Glimmerglass Opera. And James will make his debut next season with the Minnesota Opera as Alfredo in La Traviata. Breakfast with the Arts will continue in a moment. The Metropolitan Opera National Council audition winners on Breakfast with the Arts now continues. The next performance will be from soprano Carolyn Betty, who represents the Mid-Atlantic region. She is currently a Masters of Music candidate at Philadelphia's Curtis Institute of Music and was the 2000 recipient of the Richard Gaddis Career Grant from the Opera Theater of St. Louis. This morning she will sing an aria by Mozart.
Se piacer mi vuoi, se piacer mi vuoi, lascia I sospetti tuoi, lascia I sospetti tuoi. Stancar con questo, onesto dubitar, e se piacer mi vuoi, lascia I sospetti tuoi. Con questo, ogni stancar con questo, molesto dubitar, molesto dubitar. Ciecamente crede, impegna serbar fede, impegna serbar fede. Chi sempre inganna aspetta, alletta d'ingannar, alletta d'ingannar. De se piacer ciecamente crede, impegna serva fede, che sembra ignare
Carolyn, congratulations.
Thank you very
much. Come have a
much.
seat.
Thank you.
Congratulations on being a winner this year.
Thank you.
You sang Mozart just now. There was a lot of Mozart in the competition this year. Were you worried about that almost everybody was singing Mozart?
No, I didn't think of it as being worried. It was, I think it's great. I think Mozart's amazing. And
you didn't think maybe there wasn't enough diversity or something?
Well, I mean, there is that, but at the same time, Mozart is so different, and everybody sang different styles of it, and it shows so much. And I don't want to worry about what other people are doing, really.
We haven't really talked about this morning, but there were 4 winners, and it started with 2000. Take me back a little bit. When were you one of 2000?
I started in January in Philadelphia, and it was just a normal day. I wasn't expecting anything.
And how many people did you compete with on that day?
I think there were around 50 out of Philadelphia. It was a long day. I was in the beginning, around 10 o'clock in the morning. I had to go to work, so I couldn't get there for the awards, and my roommate was actually the one who called me and told me.
What's your day job, can I ask?
I was actually assistant stage managing a show at school.
So out of the 50, you won that competition.
Yes.
And it was a big stage, and it was the same kind of thing here where they awarded you. And then from there, was it directly to this Met competition?
No, we went on to Washington, D.C. for the regionals. And that was another big hall. Like 2,000 people were there. It was a big audience. I think there were 12 of us. And I ended up winning that. And now we had semifinals and then finals. And
how does it feel? How does it feel to have had that process from 2,000 down to 4?
It's surreal. It's amazing. I can't believe it. I feel so honored.
Was there one nerve-wracking part more than any other?
I think probably the regionals were. It was a really hard situation because everybody was so good, and I really wanted to move on because just to come to New York was what I really wanted to do. And just being here at all was amazing. So winning was great too, but I really wanted to come to New York. So I was more nervous then than I was here.
There's a part of the aria you sang this a cappella, the orchestra in the case of the competition, or George in the case of today, they just go away completely. I always wonder is that nerve-wracking for you to think that you're all by yourself, there's no pitching you can match with anybody, you just got to hold it on your own?
I actually like that too.
You like that part too?
It's
trying to find out where the pressure is, and there isn't any.
Right, it starts right at the beginning, and it was nice because I could actually kind of get a sense of what the room was like. I could hear myself, and it's nice just to be out there on your own. It's exciting.
And the Met Orchestra, to look out and to have the conductor and have what is arguably one of the best orchestras in the world. How did that feel supporting you?
It was amazing. I felt so safe, and just excited and ecstatic.
I know when I think of music schools and I think of great training, I think of Oberlin and I think of the Curtis Institute of Music. You've done both. That must be a double whammy to have both of those music schools and your training. Give me a little idea of your background.
Well, Oberlin was great. I had done a high school summer camp there and met my teacher there, and I couldn't wait to go. I thought it was just a wonderful school, and I had a wonderful time. I learned so much about music, about how to sing, about life. And then going to Curtis, where yeah, and then Curtis has just been amazing. The attention you get there. There are, I think, 24 students with, I think, 7 full-time coaches. Your voice teacher. It's amazing, the personal attention you get, and I've just grown so much.
Is there 1 or 2 teachers that you're currently working with that helped you prepare for the particular?
My voice teacher is Marlena Malice, and my main teacher at Curtis is Michael Eliason.
And role models in the world of opera, are there stars and singers that you talk to, met, or just listen to that inspire you?
I actually haven't met very many. I really would love to meet Bryn Terfel at some time. He's my favorite. And then Renee Fleming, I saw her on the street once. Debbie Voigt, I love. Eileen Farrell has always been one of my favorites.
And are there for the lack of a better word, tricks, or there are techniques that you hear when you hear a recording or see somebody on stage that you incorporate into your own?
I kind of try and be myself more than...
You sang in English, which was a little rare for the competition. I think there were only 2 arias that did. We mentioned this earlier with Twyla. Do you think when you sing in English, you know, at the Met, that it connects better either with the audience or the judges? What was the thinking behind choosing that aria?
Well, the aria it's a strange one. It's Britain. It's not the most accessible, but it shows so much about emotion and about what you can do with your voice, and it is great to be able to sing in English. I love it. I've done a lot of it, and people understand it, and they understand what you're talking about, hopefully, and it's great.
Tell me the roles you think you'll be doing. Where do you see yourself going?
Right now, doing Mozart. I have my teachers seem to think I'd go heavier into a Germanic repertoire, possibly, but I need to be safe. I'm young, so see Fiordiligi, Clemenza, Countess, Figaro.
Well, Carol and Betty, congratulations again on the competition, and come back and visit us.
Thank you.
This summer, Carol and Betty will sing the First Lady in Mozart's The Magic Flute with the Opera Theater of St. Louis. She will also sing the role of Anna Morant in Weil's Street Scene at Wolf Trap. The Metropolitan Opera National Council audition winners on Breakfast with the Arts will continue. Breakfast with the Arts now continues. The final winner this morning is tenor Philippe Castagnier from Canada, who represents the Northwest region. Last fall, he made his professional concert debut at the Ottawa Symphony Orchestra as a soloist, and this summer will join the San Francisco Opera's Marola program. This morning, he'll perform an aria from Faust by GOUNOD.
Con il me pénètre, je sens l'amour s'emparer de mon être. Oh, Marguerite, à tes pieds me voici. Salut, demeure chaste et pure. Salut, demeure chaste et pure. Où se devine la présence d'une âme innocente et divine. Que de richesse en cette pauvreté, on se réduit que de félicité, que de richesse lac de ton haleine enveloppe son âme, tu fis avec amour épanouir la femme en cet ange des cieux. C'est là, oui, c'est là. Salut, demeure chaste et pure. Salut, demeure chaste et pure, où se devine la présence d'une âme innocente et divine. Salut, salut, demeure chaste et pure, où se devine la présence d'une âme innocente et
Philippe, congratulations. Thank you so much for singing with us. Have a seat. That was terrific.
Thank you.
You out of breath? You okay?
I'm okay, I think.
You know, operas are 3 or 4 hours. You have to keep that stamina, you know?
That's true.
Let's talk about the competition. You really had the first high note of the entire competition, and we just heard it. Was there some strategy involved in having this particular aria being done in the first half?
Not particularly. I mean, you can't think too much about what you're doing in comparison to anyone else, especially when this competition in the final stage was almost entirely filled by people who are different Faust, which actually literally means chest of drawers. Their whole thing is different. You know, everyone's got their thing that they do, and mine is that I have a very smooth range and an easy top, and so that's what you try to show off. If someone else has a more, you know, a heavier pointed sound, they might not have the high notes, but they're going to show something else off, and you know, something completely different.
James was on earlier already in the program. As we pointed out then, you two were the only two that sang the same aria within the competition. Did that worry you at all, that somebody else was singing the very same song we just heard?
It didn't worry me that someone else was singing the same song. It worried me that James Valenti was singing the same song, because well, he's got a new fan now. It's me. He's just amazing, and but we are a completely different take on the same piece, and so I went out and tried to show a kind of sweetness. That was my strategy, and he goes out and he shows you the guts, and so while there's some worry, I mean, they can easily pick both, and they did this time.
I haven't really talked about this morning, but of course you did perform with the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra for the competition, and I noticed you came out, you sort of took the stage and did a little nod to Julius Rudel. How much interaction did you have with the conductor and the orchestra, both prior to the competition and then during your arias?
To tell you the truth, that with singing with the Met Orchestra was unlike anything I've ever had the privilege to do in my life. So far it's been student orchestras, which is a different game altogether. Everyone has to agree to absolutely follow the conductor's stick, and it was almost like I could do whatever I wanted when I was with the Met Orchestra, because they follow whatever you do. And once I figured out that I could do that, it went really well, and I'm lucky there was a lot of rehearsing done with the orchestra and interaction and coaching with the conductor, not always with the orchestra, but he would coach you and help you along, and it's just an amazing experience.
There was a moment in your aria that I saw here as well as on the Met stage in which you sort of, as the character that you're singing from, sort of look out at everything in the competition particularly. Were you as the character in that moment, or were you sort of saying, I'm at the Met singing this song?
Well, it's kind of a blur when you're up there. It's almost like you're not there. And what's happening is just what you've trained yourself to do, and you're kind of watching from a third-person point of view. Yes, you're in the character, but only about 20% of you is, and another 70% is singing, and then you need that 10% that's watching everything and trying to coordinate it. So it's really, you don't feel that much when you're on the stage.
What was it, nerve-wracking for you, or did you enjoy the process?
What's nerve-wracking really is after everything's said and done, and you're waiting for them to announce the winners.
That 15 minutes or so was a long time.
100 years, I think it was.
You're off to San Francisco this summer for the Marola program. Tell us about that. What is that?
That's it's an apprentice program or something like it. Young artist programs are a place where you can take on a larger role, so you can get experience on the stage in a bigger part, while still being able to make mistakes, because it's not professional. It's no one's going to not hire you back if you screw it up, and it's a place where you grow, and they take care of you and they coach you, and it's an amazing deal, because you don't pay a cent and you get all this attention.
That is an amazing deal.
And so
you come from Canada. Family of musicians?
Absolutely not. My parents are not musicians. My mother could sing if she wanted to. She has a great voice. My father has a tin ear. But they're starting to like opera. My little brother is a composer, and he's studying music education.
And your teachers, who prepared you for this competition?
My teacher is David Meek, who studies. He teaches in Vancouver. And also Nancy Hermiston, who is the head of my program, the opera program at the University of British Columbia. And so they were my main preparation, and then of course there's 2 weeks here at the Met where you're with coaches, and they coach your movement and your acting and all this stuff.
What roles are you anxious to sink your teeth into?
Tamino from the Magic Flute. Faust is one that I've gotten to do, but I'd love to do it again. All of them. All of the French and Italian, there's just so many. I mean.
Well, you're off to a great start, and you're just starting, so maybe you'll get to all the ones that you want.
I hope so.
Philippe Castagnet, pleasure to meet you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This summer, Philippe will be performing the role of Fenton in Nicolai's Merry Wives of Windsor with San Francisco Opera's Marola program. Stay with Breakfast with the Arts. When we return, a look at past winners of the National Council audition and a peek inside the Lindemann Young Artist Development Program. Don't go away. We just finished hearing and speaking to some singers who may be tomorrow's opera legends. Now let's see what some past winners are doing currently. For dramatic soprano Deborah Voigt, this has been a busy year. Following a hugely successful production of Strauss's Die Frau und Schatten, she sang the second act of Tristan and Isolde with the New York Philharmonic, whetting Wagnerite's appetite for the next great Isolde. Here she is from a previous visit to our show.
Ja, du weisest, teure Seele, dass ich fern von dir mich wähle, lebe durch den Herzen krank. Habe Dank. Einst hielt ich der Freiheit sicher, hoch den arbeitiesten Wege, und du segnetest den Trank. Habe Dank. Und beschworst darin die Bösen, bis ich, was ich nie gewesen, heilig und selbst dir sang.
Deborah will be singing in Die Walküre and Tannhäuser at the Vienna State Opera for most of May. Another Met winner, Sandra Radvanovsky, scored a major success this past season, singing the title role in the Met's new production of Louisa Miller. She is currently in Japan singing Donna Anna in Mozart's Don Giovanni. Here she is to sing a song by Aaron Copland.
On the lake where drooped the willow, long time ago, where
Sandra's next major challenge is the role of Violetta in Verdi's La Traviata, which she'll perform at the Santa Fe Opera this summer. Heidi Grant Murphy joined Sandra in Japan singing Zerlina and Don Giovanni. This past season, she was the soprano soloist in Brahms' German Requiem that the New York Philharmonic performed as a memorial to September 11th. Heidi also sang the world premiere of The Cows of Apollo by Theophanides at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. Now she sings a song from Sondheim's Sweeney Todd.
You sing. How can you jubilate sitting in cages, never taking wing? Outside the sky waits beckoning, beckoning, just beyond the bars. How can you remain staring at the rain, maddened by the stars?
There's more Sondheim in store for Heidi this August when she performs Little Night Music at Ravinia. She will also sing at Tanglewood and the La Jolla Chamber Music Festival. Tenor James Osborn is going through a Rossini period. He's just finished up performances at the Met and Rossini's Barber of Seville. This past season, James made his Berlin State Opera debut in this same role. Here he is to sing an aria from Mozart's The Magic Flute.
Dein Zauberton, weil holde Flöte, durch dein Spielen, selbst wilder Tiere Freude fühlen. Wie stark ist nicht dein Zauberton, ein holder Flöte durch dein Spielen. Holde Flöte durch dein Spielen, selbst wilde Freude Tiere, doch nur Pamina bleibt davon, nur Pamina bleibt davon. Pamina, Pamina, höre mich. Umsonst, ach wo find ich dich? Ha, das ist Papagenos Ton. Vielleicht sah Pirminen schon, vielleicht eilt sie mit ihm zu mir, vielleicht führt mich der Ton zu ihr, führt mich der Ton zu ihr, führt mich der Ton zu ihr.
In May and June, James will sing the role of Almaviva in Rossini's Barber of Seville with Opera Pacific and with the Metropolitan Opera in the Parks. Next season, he makes his Paris opera debut in Rossini's La Cenerentola. Stay with us. When we return, a look inside the Lindemann Young Artist Development Program, a nurturing ground for some of opera's biggest names. Arts and entertainment news. The Lindemann Young Artist Development Program. Many opera houses maintain programs to nurture young singers and musicians, but New York and the Metropolitan Opera is home to one of the most prestigious programs in the world. With Maestro James Levine at the helm and the wide-ranging resources of the Met, the Lindemann Young Artist Development Program takes meticulous care in selecting and grooming the superstars of tomorrow.
I wake up sometimes and I just have to pinch myself. Am I really here at the Met? You know, am I really singing in front of Maestro Levine? Am I really working with these people?
Soprano Rochelle Durkin is living out her dreams. She is one of the chosen few, a participant in the prestigious Lindemann Young Artist Development Program at the Metropolitan Opera.
What I tried to do was construct a program so that there would be a place for some of these singers who aren't finished with something crucial when they get out of school. And it could be that the resources of the Metropolitan Opera are useful for that singer in some way, and it's different with every singer. I was motivated simply by what I suppose every conductor, musician is, namely, there can never be too many great singers.
Maestro James Levine created the Lindemann program in 1980 to, quote, nurture a select group of exceptional talent, unquote. And he continues to be a guiding voice and advisor today.
He's very involved with the program. He has a good relationship, a personal relationship with each young artist. He watches their development throughout the season and their tenure in the program. His word is the final one when we're selecting young artists each season.
I was looking for talents that were not finished, but that clearly had something important and individual and expressive to offer.
This year we have 11 singers and 3 pianists, and that number slides a little bit one way or the other. We're not looking for a quota to fill, we're just looking for the best artists each year.
One of the major reasons for the program conception was because some winners of the National Council auditions were promising but not quite ready for a contract with the Met. Now the journey to securing one of these coveted spots is as individual as the singers themselves.
I got into the program from the regional Met finals in Australia, in Sydney. and I was a winner there. And then I came over to the National Council auditions over here in New York and won that. So was chosen out of 23 semi-finalists to be one of 10 finalists and then one of the 5 winners. I was asked to audition for Maestro Levine on the stage at the Met, so that was very exciting, and I couldn't see anyone, so all I could hear was his voice from the back of the hall, so it wasn't as if I could see him and get a little nervous, but I mean, of course I was a little nervous, but...
I decided to enter the auditions my junior year of college, and just sort of on a whim, and ended up making it all the way to the finals here in New York, and got to sing on the concert with Sir Charles Mackerras, sorry. And basically they invited me to the program that year, but I couldn't do it because I wanted to finish my degree, that sort of thing, and so went back and then came back the next season.
I was a national winner of the auditions in 1997. I returned to Florida and finished my master's degree. And then I came into contact again with the Met through some auditions that they have for additional grant money that they offer to singers who are previous winners of the competition. And that's how I got in touch with the staff and was invited to participate in the program.
The list of notable former participants also includes John Osborn, Sandra Radvanovsky, Heidi Grant Murphy, and Stephanie Blythe. The Met was only the second stage Stephanie had performed on. The first was at her small music school in Potsdam.
Stephanie Blythe is currently in the Falstaff production, and she sticks out in my mind because I heard her sing her very first audition and was so happy when she was chosen to be in the program and had such a wonderful experience here.
There have been many, many singers over the years of the Young Artist program, and also long before I came here, who have gone on to make very, very successful careers, or have very, very successful careers, and make a big impression on the opera world.
There are other programs in the United States and abroad housed in famous opera houses, but there is something unique about the Lindemann program and the Met.
Well, what makes the program unique is that it is a young artist program where we're taken care of and we're supported and nurtured, but it's also day-to-day contact with life at the Metropolitan Opera. You know, being in the cafeteria and sitting next to Renee Fleming, for example. We're constantly exposed to incredibly advanced and high levels of music making.
Just to be able to walk amongst the famous tenors and sopranos and everybody else, that's pretty unique.
They have the advantage of attending rehearsals of all the operas that are in various stages of preparation, of performances whenever they like. And that is a very, very large part, an important part of their training, is to learn from professional singers and learn from real professional situations.
You get access to great singers who, you know, Renato Scotto, for instance, Birgit Nielsen, Regine Crespin, all of these great singers who, I mean, were really in the golden era of singing and were here and superstars at that time, are still around here, and we all have access to those, you know, great minds and great singers. So I think that is the single greatest aspect of this program.
What's unique about this program is that it's at the Met. That is, it uses all the Met's resources, which are greater than one can find in almost any other situation.
Space in the program is quite limited, but once accepted, the resources are practically limitless. In addition to a yearly stipend to cover living costs, each of their lessons and master classes are paid for by the program.
First of all, we have Italian and German lessons every week, and we also then have stagecraft,
acting courses. We have sessions of Alexander technique to align the body and have a body awareness while we sing, as well as, of course, vocal coachings with staff members here, as well as the staff of the program, and our voice lessons. All of these things are provided by the program.
Benita Valenti is one of the many fine coaches who brings with her past experiences and insights. She had worked with the Lindemann program last season and has returned.
Who said singing was easy? But once you get the grab of it, you will be thrilled to do all these things, because then you are in control.
I have done a fair amount of teaching leading up to this, and just find it a joy to work here with these young people because they are at such a level.
slides further up in the back. Yeah. When the master coach comes in, they're typically here for a period of 2 weeks, during which time they give us about 4 to 6 hours per day, 5 days a week. And so each young artist has the opportunity to work 2 to 3 times a week, one-on-one with the master coach.
Everybody wants to sing at the Met, but what they need to do now is to learn the craft, get out and try it out in various places.
During the current Met season, there is only one production that does not involve current or past participants of the Lindemann Young Artist Development Program.
The greatest sort of memories I have been all the shows I've been involved with, whether it be the Parsifal or Meistersinger or Ariadne with Deborah Voigt. To me, it's one thing to get to work with, you know, Renato Scotto. It's another thing to be up in a show in front of 4,000 people with Maestro Levine in the pit with the orchestra. I mean, that to me, all the shows that I've got to work on here have been the most incredible sort of memories that I have.
Typically, young artists are given small roles in some of the productions. And you do feel a pressure to be at a certain level because you're a part of a production at the Metropolitan Opera. I mean, it's everyone's dream. But it's very good pressure because it forces you to really maximize what you're doing at any given time.
My debut, which was on Monday night, which was just fantastic, I had a lot of fun, was with Placido Domingo. So it's something that is very, very out of this world, really.
To foster performers who are knowledgeable about so much more than just performing, the program takes great strides to teach them about opera life and how to balance the personal and the professional.
It's a look at the career of an opera singer, not just about, are you going to sing Mozart, are you a Strauss singer, but the whole package and what's involved.
When you're in school, you follow orders, and you kind of think, well, when I graduate, I'll know everything. And you know nothing. And you get out, and you have to try it all out, and then you know what questions you want to ask.
They're lucky to have the opportunity. We're also lucky to have had the chance to know them and to work with them, and we're very proud of the people that have come out of this program, very, very much so.
In every case, whether it's someone who turned out to spend most of their work in this house or not, it is still aiding the future of the art form.
The Lindemann Young Artist Development Program has played a lead role in nurturing the next generation of opera greats, fulfilling dreams, one singer at a time.
Want to get an agent and go sing. That's what I want to do.
Many National Council Audition regional finalists have the distinction of being invited to the Lindemann Young Artist Development Program. However, program participants aren't limited to audition winners. It is open to anyone with the talent, drive, and enthusiasm to want to grow and succeed as an artist. For more about the Lindemann Young Artist Development Program, you can visit the information desk at metopera.org. Stay with Breakfast with the Arts. When we return, a special open book with Paul Gruber from the Metropolitan Opera Guild. Welcome back to Breakfast with the Arts. Today, a special open book. We're happy to have with us Paul Gruber of Program Development at the Metropolitan Opera Guild to talk about the Metropolitan Opera gift shop and what every opera lover should have stocked in their home library. Welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
The Guild actually publishes its own books, right?
Right.
And what would you suggest people have?
I think people should start with the stories of the opera book, the official Metropolitan Opera stories of the great operas. There are 2 volumes by John W. Freeman, who for many years was an associate editor of the Opera News, which is the magazine we published. And I think that's where people turn to first. They're going to an opera, they want to know what the story is. They maybe don't have time to read the entire libretto. They know there are going to be titles at the opera. Titles on the back of the seat.
The super titles are on the back of the seat. That's probably changed a lot. People now know the story because of that.
It's changed it completely. Unfortunately, they buy fewer librettos because they feel they don't have to read up so much before going.
And you sell those as well, right?
We do sell librettos when we can get a hold of them.
And what kind of person do you think it is? Goes into the shop, buys a libretto, and then walks into the opera and just follows along the whole time?
Well, I don't know that they do that. I think they usually buy it beforehand and try to read it before, because the titles at the opera are an abbreviation of what they're singing. There's no way you can go to Meistersinger. The libretto to Meistersinger is about 250 pages long, and there's no way you could go to Meistersinger and read the entire thing on the back of a seat. So you're getting some highlights to help you along for the evening. It certainly differs from opera to opera.
So you can buy a guide to the stories, but you also have a guide to recorded CDs of operas.
Yes,
Tell me
we
about
published about 10 years ago the Guide to Recorded Opera, where we chose about 22 internationally renowned critics who chose up operas and listened to every available recording of those 150 operas and reviewed each one of them and then gave a recommendation or recommendations for each one.
And video and DVD is becoming very popular. I have a similar guide as well, right?
A similar guide for video as well, absolutely.
What about reference material in general? What would you suggest people have?
I think that I would start with those books. If you get really interested, you might go to the Grove Opera Dictionary, which is a 4-volume opera dictionary that sells for a lot more, but gives you a lot more information. The other thing that we do is the Annals of the Metropolitan Opera, if you're really crazy about the Met.
Yeah, tell me about that. It got so big you couldn't even have it on a book anymore,
exactly.
right?
We published it at first in 1991, and it was 2 volumes totaling about 1,500 pages. And 10 years later, we added a lot more performances, so now we have on DVD a complete chronology of every performance that ever happened in the Met from 1883 through the year 2000.
And does it cross-reference it to where you bring a performer and
so
everything?
You can bring up your favorite artist. List every artist who has ever sung a solo role at the Met, and you can find their complete Met career, and then you can go performance by performance, do searches.
We're actually talking about the gift shop at the Met in New York City, but you don't actually have to come here to get any of the things we're talking about today. You can get them on the web at 2 different websites. Tell me about those.
You can go to metguild.org, or you can go to metopperashop.org and go directly to the opera shop, and you'll find about 1,000 items, recordings, books, librettos, gifts, opera-related gifts that we develop.
And biographies, both of, I would guess, composers and the stars themselves. Do you have those? Tell me some of your favorites.
Well, I think most people, depends where they're coming from, whether they want to come from the point of view of the artist, if they're crazy about stars. Those go in and out of print. There are probably about 10 Maria Callas biographies, that are available. Actually, there is one Maria Callas autobiography, or one that purports to be an autobiography, based on an essay that they say she wrote.
Does it surprise you that so many years later that she's still such an icon and people are still so interested in Maria Callas?
No. Certainly she has all the makings of a popular figure in terms of her connection with the Kennedys and her connections with Onassis. The fact that she was a very fiery, dramatic, she was a wonderful artist. A lot of people forget that she was a wonderful artist and get excited about the yachts and the early death and all of those aspects of her life. But certainly it's touched the imaginations of a lot of people who otherwise would have nothing to do with opera.
And the composers, did we touch on that, biographies?
No, but there are wonderful biographies of Verdi and Wagner and Mozart, some classics that have been in print for years. There's a wonderful Verdi biography that was published about 5 years ago by a woman, Mary Jane Phillips Matz, who researched 20 years and went into all of the archives in Italy and found church documents, found documentation of some illegitimate children he had had, but it's a very serious biography of his entire life. He had an amazing life. Both he and Wagner really had lives that involved politics, their national politics, as well as music.
Books for children, get them involved, get them to know the stories. Do you have that?
There are books that tell opera stories for children. There's one called Sing Me a Story, which is a wonderful book. There's another one by Random House. The Random House book's a book of opera stories. Both of them are highly illustrated. There's a cute book that came out last year called Bravo Brava, which is takes the children into the opera house and talks about the things they'll find in the opera house. And that's a lot of fun, too. Kids like that.
A lot of books at the gift shop, but that's not all you sell. A lot of titles, a lot of CDs.
Thousands of CDs, yeah.
Thousands of CDs.
Complete operas, recital recordings by the artists, and recordings that we publish ourselves. The Guild publishes, and has for about a quarter of a century, compilations of rare recordings that you couldn't find anywhere else, celebrations of specific artists, recordings of operas, thematic recordings. We have Met stars sing Verdi and Met stars sing Puccini. We have recordings for kids. Growing Up with Opera is a beginning of a series for kids. Then we have Growing Up with Music and Growing Up with Broadway as well.
It used to be a huge complaint. People would email me that, oh, you know, that sounded so great on your show, but there's no classical category in my record store in my hometown. So much of that you can get on the web now and get it through your store as well.
It's hard if you don't live in a city. Even if you live in a suburb of a great city and go into a chain store, you'll find that the opera selection is minute, the classical section is minute. And if they want any kind of variety beyond the big bestsellers, then they have to go on the internet or by catalog.
You're in the gift shop there at the Met Opera often. What do you hear from the patrons? You do once a day? Yeah. Do you hear whether people like things, don't like things, or performances? What do you hear from them?
Oh, you hear everything from them. The wonderful thing about opera lovers is they're absolutely passionate about their interest, about that art, much more than even the people who go to the classical, the non-vocal classical performances. And they have very strong opinions about singers, both of the present and the past, very strong opinions about operas, or they want to find out about it. And we have people of all ages who come in and say, maybe with some embarrassment, I just heard my first opera, I want a recording of La Bohème, what do you recommend? And we have a terrific staff of mostly young people, mostly people who want to be singers, who can give them recommendations for a recording to buy.
We've mentioned the Met Guild here this morning. What exactly is that?
The Met Guild was founded in 1935 as, in the Depression, as a fundraising organization, an organization to help the Met, which was in trouble, in financial trouble in the depths of the Depression. And the founder, who was Mrs. August Belmont, had the revolutionary idea of raising money from masses. Rather than the traditional idea in opera was to have a small group of maybe 24 very wealthy individuals support the opera, going out to thousands and thousands of people who had been listening to the Met on the radio since 1931 and go to them for whatever they could give. I think they asked for $5 at first. And she immediately raised $5,000 for the Met. Our other mission really is to raise interest in the opera, especially in young people. We have a huge educational program which goes all over the country, does teacher training, brings kids into the opera house, brings opera singers into schools. It's especially important now that music programs in schools are usually the first to be cut when there are budget cuts. So that's one of the reasons why we do even more in that area now.
Sounds like great work. Paul Gruber, thanks so much for being with us this morning. The Metropolitan Opera Shop is located next to the ticket office at the Metropolitan Opera. For hours and information, call 212-580-4090. You can also get more information about the Metropolitan Opera Guild by visiting their website at metguild.org. Breakfast with the Arts will continue in a moment. We're glad that you joined us this morning for this very special Breakfast with the Arts. We congratulate all the winners of this year's National Council auditions and hope that sometime in the future we will see them again on our program. The breakfast staff and I would like to thank the Metropolitan Opera, the Lindemann Young Artist Program, and pianist George Darden for their participation. And as usual, Steinway & Sons for providing the piano. Until next week, for Breakfast with the Arts, I'm Elliot Forrest.
Tonight, Baton Rouge, where a call girl service catches Capitol Hill with its...
Till you find your dream, a dream that will need